UK Time Out on Radio Biafra, bringing news beats from across the United Kingdom, incisive analysis by the People's Parliament, our panel dissects the topic of the week, and listeners interact.
Also featuring great Biafran history, education, awareness, and enlightenment, plus entertainment galore.
Tune in to the UK Time Out on Radio Biafra, Sundays from 7:30 p.m. Biafran time and British Summer Time. Set out for a fabulous week ahead with the UK Time Out on Radio Biafra. News, views, previews, and reviews. Join us.
Good evening from here. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, where you are. Welcome to the UK Time Out on Radio Biafra. On this Sunday, the very first Sunday of the month of February 2025. Today is a Market Day. This month is the month of love, and it is indeed the month of transition to transformation. After our year has begun with all the resolution, this is the actual month to put all those into action. My name is Ike Chukuna Isumokoro, Ichie Wachinemere. I'm your host. I serve Biafrans as the IPOB UK National Coordinator, and I hail from Onitsha, Ezinihite, Owerri Province. We begin with a word of prayer in the language of heaven. Eke kere eluigwe na ala, Chukwu anyị na-ekpere ụtụtụ ehihie abalị. Ayọm gị taa n'isi ụmụ Biafra niile, ka ị nara ekele anyị, nara mbuli elu ọjịcha mma ntụrụugo ka anyị na-enye gị kwa ụbọchị, n'ihi na itozuru ya, izuru ka emee, o ruru gị. Enweghị onye gị na ya ga-ama aka, enweghị onye pụrụ ịnara otuto gị na mmụọ na mmadụ, n'ihi anyị buru ekele niile nye gị. Ị mere ka anyị bata n'ime ọnwa ọhụụ a, n'ime afọ ọhụụ ka dịkwa ọhụụ. Anyị nwere nchekwube, nwe olileanya na ị ga-emezuru anyị ebumnuche anyị niile nke dị mma, nke ziri ezi n'ihu gị. N'ime ọnwa a anyị ga-ebido rụba ya bụ ọrụ. Ị ga-enye anyị ike, nye anyị ume iji wee rụzuo ọrụ ahụ, ka aha nsọ gị wee bụrụ ihe ebuliri n'elu. Gbaghara anyị ụzọ ọbụla anyị na-esi na mmehie, eze ebube, mere anyị amara. Ihe na-akpagbu anyị n'obi anyị nke ịma zuru karịa ka anyị mara, mere anyị ha. Nke kachasị nwere onwe anyị nweta ala nke ị kwere anyị na nkwa, ka anyị biri n'ime ya n'udo na ọṅụ, na-enweghị nsogbu. Jiri aka anyị hazie ya ka anyị si wee chọọ efe ego ofenye n'elu ala nke i nyere anyị, nakwa nnwere onwe nke nwa gị nwoke onye mbụ anyị Nnamdi Kanu, ka o si n'ụlọ itere ọ nọ wee pụta. Ịmazuru ihe niile, ị ga-emezukwana karịa oke m rịọrọ gị site n'aha nwa gị nwoke Yeshua HaMashiach. Ise 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 ise. Ihe niile banyere na-emetụ Chukwu n'obi, echiche udo na ọganiru ka ọ na-echere m. Ọ gaghị ekwe ka ndị iro wechia m ọchị. Amara Chineke bara ụba n'ime m nọ. Ihe niile banyere anyị na-emetụ Chukwu n'obi, echiche udo, ọganihu ka ọ na-echere anyị. Ọ gaghị ekwe ka ndị iro anyị merie anyị. Amara Chineke bara ụba n'ebe anyị nọ. News bit is coming up, and after that we go on the People's Parliament. I have panel today to look at Biafra oil and gas resources, source of hatred and marginalization. join us.
Good day and welcome to this week's News Bite. I am Mazi Sam with Wanda Cindy. Good evening. IPOB leadership is exposing more perpetrators of evil and crime in Biafra land. Mazi Chinasa Nwaoru, in a special broadcast last night, named those hiding under Biafra agitation, including kidnappers, Yahoo, Ndi Obuna Abali, Ezenwa, fake DBS, Ndi Bitcoin, calling on these groups to be properly investigated and completely shut down. Mazi Nwaoru identified these criminals as a serious security threat, pointing out that it's time to clean up Biafra land. IPOB continues to dish out expositions back to back. Nwaoru also said that with what is happening, especially in Olu province, the Kano's call by the notorious Islamic cleric Sheikh Gumi on the government to arm Igbo youths to kill IPOB members has already started. The deputy HOD, Mazi Nzurumi Ike, has been on BTV this evening as the cleansing both inside and outside the global peaceful movement ramps up. Here in the UK this February, the proposed transformational reshuffles will be finalized and formalized with details to be communicated at both the emergency cabinet meeting and the first all principal officers meeting billed for next week. Igbo Women Assembly based in Lagos has accused the federal government of fueling insecurity in the southeast and not doing anything to stop hate speeches by many zoo officials and politicians against Igbo, insisting that the wicked targeting of Igbo men will leave them, the women, not only widows but even childless. The women called for the immediate release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu for peace to return to the once most peaceful region. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has filed a defamation lawsuit against Olumo Yawa Adejobi, spokesperson of the Nigerian police force, accusing the policeman of portraying him as a terrorist leader in a recent press statement, in which Adejobi described IPOB as a proscribed terrorist organization. Kanu, who asked for Adejobi to cover the cost of filing the lawsuit, is demanding 20 billion naira in general compensation for reputational and collateral damages, an unreserved apology letter, as well as an order preventing Adejobi from making further defamatory statements about him and IPOB and the ESN. Elsewhere, a court of appeal sitting in Abuja last Thursday affirmed the proscription of IPOB. A three-man panel headed by Justice Hama Bala unanimously upheld the judgment of the High Court, while the corrupt zoo judiciary has hurriedly arraigned a kangaroo court to insist on this ridiculous ruling. They have continued to deter on the hearing of Onyendu's bail restoration suit.
Abia State government has announced that Igbo language has been made compulsory in her state primary and secondary schools. Still in Abia State, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFTA, has shut down the infamous cemetery market in Aba for the second time in 2 years. NAFTA said it uncovered and confiscated 3 cases of standard food and beverages worth over 5 billion naira in this latest operation tagged Operation Clean Up Aba. Described as the hub for Africa's largest counterfeit wine and beverage hotel, Cemetery Market has been notorious for producing fake alcoholic drinks, carbonated beverages and food products, leading consumers to serious health challenges and untimely death. In Delta State, tension gripped Igbo communities of Umunede and Mbiri in Ika as 2 farmers died in the hands of murderous herders last Wednesday. According to a statement from the Inter-Society, the Nigerian police have allegedly pocketed 15 billion naira, while the military netted 6.8 billion naira from the southeast just in the last 2 months, between December 2024 and January 2025. Inter-society findings have it that at least 300 direct military roadblocks and 500 patrols teams operate in the region, with 98% involved in extortion. Each military roadblock reportedly collected an average of 100,000 naira daily, translating to 80 million naira daily or 2.4 billion naira monthly. On Friday, a tipper loader crashed into a squad of the state's anti-touty agents, killing many on the spot in Oba near Onitsha. Fuel fire incident occurred in Niger State when a fuel-laden tanker exploded in Kushuboge last Monday. This comes barely a week after another fuel tanker fire explosion in Diko in Gurara of the same Niger State left at least 98 persons dead, with many others severely injured. In a different Niger State tragedy, 4 persons were killed in an explosion that rocketed a mining site in Savon-Peggy, Michigan in Niger State last Sunday. The exact cause remains unknown, but residents have suggested that poor handling of explosive devices by mining companies might be responsible.
Peter Obi last week described Nigeria as a crime scene where there are more Yahoo boys in government than on the streets. This statement came at a time when former Rivers State Governor and one-time Transport Minister Chibike Rotimi Amechi has declared that Nigerian politicians are in power to steal, kill, and retain power. The people of Owele in Owerri, north of Imo State, have raised alarm following the invasion and wanton destruction of their ancestral homes by state agents. They called on the state governor, Hope Uzodinma, and the police commissioner, Aboki Danjuma, to urgently intervene, investigate the matter, and address what they describe as the desecration of their community for unknown reasons. Speaking to newsmen in the last week, President General Chief Robinson Uwaka condemned the incident he described as inhumane and a socio-economic setback for the community. Anambra State's latest security outfit, Operation Udo Ga-Ache, codenamed Ago Nechemba, over the weekend demolished Udoka Golden Point Hotel and Suites, aka La Cruz Hotel, along Onitsha Owerri Road, after it was revealed that the hotel had over 30 graves and a shrine within its facilities. Yoruba chieftain Gani Adams has rejected the proposal of the President General, Nigerian Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs, and Sultan of Sokoto Mohammed Said Abubakar III, calling for the establishment of an independent Sharia arbitration panels in Ekiti and Oyo states. So many Southwest traditional leaders have also rejected the proposal of any Sharia law, claiming it will lead to anarchy in Yoruba land, a multi-religious region. In Ogun State, terrorist Fulani herdsmen allegedly destroyed a 5-hectare rice plantation. Sowore has rejected the Nigerian police bail condition of 10 million naira and opted to remain in custody following his arrest over allegations of resisting and obstructing public officers, disobedience to lawful orders, cyber talking, and actions allegedly intended to prevent arrests. The Sahara Reporter CEO is also facing questioning over a viral video in which he accused police officers of extortion at a Lagos checkpoint.
Algeria has joined the Sahel countries in their revolution against France's economic stronghold by announcing restrictions to resist the French. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria formally withdrew from ECOWAS on January 29th, but has formalized the suspension of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from the regional body of ECOWAS. Official statements claim that the suspended of the two Sahel countries following military coup. One of the UK's biggest banks, with over 20 million retail customers, Barclays Bank, is experiencing large-scale IT problems as customers are unable to access the accounts and make those essential transactions. The technical glitch, which had seriously affected the bank's online sites and apps for 3 days now, came to the time of the HMRC's self-assessment tax returns deadline. In the interim, the UK Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has been warned by the leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Baddock, on the dangers of cozying up to the EU, which was spark of trade war with the US. The UK is supposed to become the first country to pass a law against using artificial intelligence to create and distribute child textual imagery. Over 3,690 Nigerians in the United States are facing deportation as the Trump administration ramps up crackdown on illegal immigration, according to fresh data released by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The U.S. President Donald Trump has withdrawn Americans from the Paris Climate Agreement, reversing the Green New Deal, which he called the Green New Scar. Trump has imposed tariffs on Canada and Mexico, which was threatening to hit back on the trade war. Trump announced an emergency legislation proposing a 25% charge on imports from both countries, as well as a 10% for oil and gas. The Trump administration also imposed a 10% tax on goods coming in into the US from China, making their products less attractive to American consumers. President Trump has also signed exclusive orders, including cutting HIV programs support, life-saving throughout the United States presidency emergency plan for AIDS relief in low and middle-income countries, including Nigeria. World Health Organization (WHO), which Trump has equally ordered U.S. withdrawal, warns that the funding force will severely disrupt HIV decades of progress in combating AIDS. U.S. Embassy building in Congo Democratic Republic was attacked by protesters last Tuesday in a violent demonstration led by the rebel group M23. Protesters shouted deaths to the imperialists targeted at Western and African countries like France, Belgium, Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya, whom they accuse of complicity. In entertainment, the popular Grammy Awards of 2025 is holding about now in Los Angeles. The USA, despite initial concerns of the avenging wildfire in Los Angeles country, the organizers of this year's Grammy have cancelled the usual lavish pre-awards dinners and party. Instead, are holding concerts to raise funds for those worst hit by the present California fire disaster. Elsewhere, in Gaza, ceasefire hostages swap deal between Israel and Palestinians have gathered momentum. 18 Israeli hostages have been released in the last 2 weeks, and another 15 expected to be freed in the coming weeks in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Sick and wounded Palestinians have been leaving the Gaza Strip for the Rafah crossing has reopened. That's Newsweek this Sunday. Keep listening to UK Time Out. Happy New Month.
Welcome back. You're listening to the UK Time Out on Radio Biafra. Last time out in September last year, when the UK Time Out on Radio Biafra was still an embryo, This same distinguished panel we have tonight took a cursory look at a very related topic to what we have tonight. Then we were discussing Biafra oil and gas reserves, envy of the West. We asked that like a question. And we came to the conclusion that our wealth of endowment by Mother Nature tend to attract more envious enemies than useful friends. Recent global developments have lent credence to our submissions then. In Europe here, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war has had its effect on gas supplies. Ukraine just recently announced it is now planning to restore gas transit through Azerbaijan. Germany this last week also disclosed that they are considering restoring Russian gas transport in their pipelines. There's been huge economic effect on other smaller countries in Europe such as Slovakia and Hungary because of the effect of this war. So clearly, the whole world is looking at alternative energy sources of fuel supply. We just had in the news bit President Trump of the US making efforts towards fossil fuel and renewable energies to try and free up oil and gas permits and leases, hoping, in the hope, or rather he's promising, that this will get more oil flowing. The US is also putting pressure on oil producing countries under the auspices of OPEC to increase oil production to reduce oil prices, as well as boasting that America will resume export under his leadership. So clearly, we know the global influence of oil and gas, and this is also a major issue locally. Today, we are going to focus more on why there is so much hatred and marginalization of Biafrans and Biafra land, where the bulk of oil and gas, if not the majority of oil and gas, a huge percentage in the country called Nigeria, is domiciled. Is there any direct connection with our rich natural oil and gas resources and this hatred and bitterness, or the plot, persistent plot for people to annihilate Biafrans and occupy Biafran land? It's my pleasure to re-invite the panel once again to delve into this topic, and I would want to invite the panelists to greet our listeners and reintroduce themselves, beginning with my deputy. Then from north we come down to the south. Hello, good evening, Doc.
Good evening, Esbu Chineke. Thank you, Chief Nice Wokoro, for anchoring this program to educate Biafrans. My name is Oyeka Ekekwe. I serve the indigenous people in the capacity of the Deputy UK National Coordinator. I reside in Aberdeen, Scotland, and I'm from the Nnewi province of Biafra land. I greet you all, Ezbo Chineke, and I welcome you to this program. Dalon.
There will, moving down south, I don't know whether our third panelist, I've not seen him on the screen. I hope he is here, will join us shortly. But let's go down to the south. Wachineke, unmute and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Marginalisation, Okoro, Enable UK Coordinator, IPOB. Greet all you all listeners. We welcome you once more. My name is Ibe Ume. I'm the coordinator of IPOB Brighton Unit, and I'm from Ogu in Enugu province of Biafra land. Stay glued to your radio as usual while we unpack what we have for you tonight or this morning, depending on where you are listening from. Thank you.
There will Mazibe Ume is Wachineke. Without wasting time, let's dive into the topic. Last time we were here, I think I was trying to record the precise date in September last year. We looked at a related topic, as I said in the intro. Let me start with you. Let's go from the south to the north, and hopefully Mazi Austin Ozoma, our regional coordinator in North Central, who is the third panelist, would have joined us. I think he's on his way, so he's trying to get a good reception to connect. Mazibe, how vast are Biafra oil and gas resources? Could you please do a historical detail or lay a background of these resources deposits?
Thank you once more. I think we would say it would be right to say that this is this particular topic 2.0, because exactly it was on the 29th of September 2024 that we deliberated on this same topic, and here we are again today, this night. Just like we mentioned in the last time we touched this topic, we started by laying the brief background of oil and gas discovery, especially oil discovery in Biafra land. Then we extended it to how vast Biafra land is laden with oil and gas. Oil was originally, because in Nigeria's history, what people are taught is that oil was discovered in Oloibi in 1956. And that's that's one of the conjectures that Nigeria always put forward. One of the deceptions they put forward. Oil was actually discovered the first time in 1928 in Nguzu, Eda, in present-day Ebonyi State. And shortly after that, it was again discovered in Ogu, around, I think it was around towards the end of 1928 or the beginning of 1929, thereabout. The point is that the entire Biafra land, if you dig deeper, apart from the ones we know, it is largely believed that the bulk of Biafra land is laden with oil and gas. Alright? Now, with the records on ground already, that Biafra oil reserve, oil alone, is valued at about 37.5 billion barrels of oil. And that puts it at the second largest oil reserve in Africa and the 10th in the world. And for the gas, is about 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve in Biafra land. And also, this puts it at the eighth position in the world, and at the first in Africa. And like we all know, this oil and gas is always the source of squabbles, which has caused lots of chaos in Biafra land and destruction of lives and properties. Because those who come to take this oil and gas, they wouldn't come in peace. If they come in peace, then it means buying it in peace. But they would never always want to take it in peace. It will always be in chaos to get the maximum chunk of it. That is always their plan and their traps. So as we move forward, delve into it much more bigger in the course of this discussion, then we open it up more and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Chineke, for that historical background. But do you want to add something to that well-laid background by Ichiezo Kubondo, Mazi Iberume? And while you do that also, you may want to delve into the question or expatiate a little bit about this Biafra oil and gas deposits and reserves, taking a look at both the potentials and our current credentials.
Yes. I think my colleague Chief Iberume has done quite justice to highlight the huge amount of oil and gas that is deposited in Biafra territory. The only thing I would like to highlight in that regard is to stress the fact that Nigeria has since moved from oil-based economy to gas. Because as it is now, Nigerian gas reserve is about 3 times that of the oil reserve we have. So Nigeria is more or less and a gas nation. So with this huge potential of gas deposit that remain largely untapped, you can imagine the amount of resources that is in our territory. And we all know that this huge gas reserve is largely situated in Imo State, Edema to be precise. And that potentially we start making our mind to go towards the fact that why the insecurity in Imo State probably has been heightened might not be unrelated to the huge gas deposit in that area. And also to put it in context with what you said in your intro about geopolitics, what is happening in the world generally, and how it affects us in our land. You will know that during the height of, the war is still on largely, the Ukraine and Russian war, that the European Union tried to get access to our gas in Biafra land, which is largely in Egbama, by running a pipeline from Egbama up to through Niger, and it's supposed to go through Morocco and into Spain or Italy to get into Europe. And you know that that project was truncated by the change of government in Niger and by the support of the Russian government. Because it will not serve the purpose of the Russian if that gas pipeline continue, because that will mean Europe will have a way to replace dependence on Russian gas. So you see that there's a lot of interest in Biafra land, not only due to our huge oil reserve, but also due to our huge gas reserve. So I think that going forward, we Biafrans need to acknowledge the fact that our resources will definitely be a source of hatred and envy, not only locally but also internationally, because there is huge interest both from multinationals, from nations in our land, and that kind of makes our strive or our determination to make Biafra a sovereign nation a very challenging one. I think I will stop at this point, because if you want to ask further question, I can go on and go on, to go deeper down the line why these resources has brought us hatred and marginalization. But I'll just wait for further question along that line.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Kepe. Yeah, you're very correct. The European Union, at the very start of the Russia-Ukraine war, had their sights set on Biafra gas especially. Of course, Britain has a stranglehold on the oil itself. But the EU haven't removed their gas either. Only last week, I read somewhere the foreign ministers of the EU, of course, Britain is no longer part of the UK is no longer part of the EU anyway, met to discuss the current gas situation and to find solutions to acute gas supplies within the member countries. Again, link that to Russia, Ukraine, and of course, you know where they're going to, their side is going to go straight away. And as we heard on the news beat too, newly returning US President Donald Trump seems to be acting with the speed of light to shut down so many things. And I have a feeling we are in for a bumpy roller coaster ride in terms of oil and gas politics or geopolitics, as you rightly pointed it out. Nazi, let me come back to you. I know we've already established in the first program in September that clearly these results remain the envy of the West. And we can see even as of today. But for today's program, just put it in perspective, our focus is more on why the resource we have has become a source of internal hatred and marginalization in the country called Nigeria, especially. Let me ask you this direct question, because I get involved in a lot of discussion on this question. Biafra's oil and gas is the only thing holding Nigeria together. Is this statement a myth or is it a statement of fact?
Once more. Of course, even an unborn baby wouldn't blink, wouldn't think twice before answering that this question or this statement is a fact, that what is holding Nigeria together is Biafra's oil and gas deposits. I wouldn't forget this statement by Benjamin Adekunle, the black scorpion or red scorpion, who said before he died that they fought for oil and gas, not for Nigeria's unity. So with other sources, if you go further, make further researches, those of them who have who fought in the war and have come back to head Nigeria at one point or the other, either as head of state or head of parastatals and the rest of them, statements from their statements one way or the other show clearly that what holds Nigeria together is Biafra's oil and gas, nothing more, nothing else, nothing less. Because If you go up north Nigeria, you have gold in Zamfara state and other mineral resources, but they keep these resources to themselves. They don't bring them. They don't bring the income to the table to be shared by other regions of or to be benefited from by other regions of Nigeria. You know, it's only the oil that the entire 36 states share the benefits from. You know, and you can recall, or we all know that since the advent of this oil, that everyone has gone lazy. Nearly every aspect of Nigeria has gone moribund, went to sleep, and also we shouldn't forget that, just like I've said, I quoted Benjamin Adekunle, that it was the oil and gas that led to Nigeria and Biafra war. It was the oil and gas that led to the war, you know. And also, if you remove oil today, let us assume that the oil goes dry, oil and gas go dry today. You see Nigeria collapse overnight. There's no doubt about that. So everything, especially, we know that Nigeria is a mono economy. You know, it depends only on oil and gas. No agriculture, all the vast land in northern Nigeria, no one talks about them, you know, relying on agriculture. No one does that. It's only on Biafra's oil and gas that even fishery. Don't forget that in the coastal region of Biafra land, where we used to fish, Biafrans living in the coastal region, where fishing could have helped in sustaining the economy, oil and gas explorations have done what? Destroyed the livelihood of people there living in the coastal region of Biafra land. So there's no doubt, you know, there are a whole lot of evidences to show that it's the oil and gas in Biafra land that stitches Nigeria together, that hold Nigeria together. There's nothing more, nothing less. There's nothing anyone can add to it, that there's nothing anyone can remove from it. That is just the pure fact. Thank you.
There was Chineke. Yeah, that very well stated. Dr. Kikwe, I may just ask you that question, or a very similar one. Even if Biafra's oil and gas specifically is the bond, if there is anything like that, or the glue holding the contraption called Nigeria together, despite the fact that there are other huge natural mineral resources of equal value, if not greater value than even oil and gas, scattered all over the country, including Arewa Republic, which is the north, and Oduduwa Republic as well. One may begin to wonder, what justifies this thought process that it must be Biafran oil and gas? Is it colonialism that the British came and then that was the period that oil was the new gold? Or is it a plot from beginning to make sure that our resources are plundered, devastated? Because I remember historically the plan was that the oil and gas in Nigeria, or Biafra specifically, wouldn't last more than 100 years. This is also the idea behind the amalgamation contract, giving itself an expiry date of 100 years. But lo and behold, it's gone past that, and then there are even greater potentials. So what is behind this thought process that is our own resources, oil and gas in particular, that the whole nation hinges all her economic lifeline and survival on? Why is that so?
Thank you, Chief Knight, for this question. And I particularly like the way you asked the question, linking it to the colonial period. Because for us to really understand or to put things in context, we need to kind of delve back a bit to kind of create a foundation to this discussion. Because if we need to understand these things, we need to know that the colonial masters actually paved the way for the way things are in Nigeria today. What do I mean by this? I would like to create this context by quoting from the handover note of Lord Lugard to Walter H. Land that took over from him. That handover note was dated 25th of September 1918. What I want to highlight there is the impression of Lord Lugard about the three majority ethnic group of Nigeria. But I'm going to focus only on the Hausa Fulani and what he said about Hausa Fulani and the Igbos. And there's a reason why I want to focus on that. So he said about the Hausa Fulani, he said, Hausa Fulani has no ideals, no ambition, save as sensual in character. He is a fatalist who believes, he's a fatalist, a spendthrift and a gambler. He is gravely immoral and seriously diseased, and is a menace to any community to which he seeks to attach himself, unquote. Then he said about the Igbo man, these people, predominantly Eastern Nigeria, which means Biafra, are fiercely rebellious with no regard for authority, though industrious and religious, in deference to the objective of Her Majesty and the Crown. They are highly dangerous to be trusted, unquote. You can see from this statement, this is how Lugard handed over to the next Governor General, the British company, because we know Nigeria is the Royal Niger Company of Britain, which has transformed to Nigerian PLC. You see, any right-thinking person can have a company and he wants to hand over the company to the next person to manage it. Will you rather give the company management to a spendthrift, a gambler with no ambition, or will you rather give the control of that company to an industrious, ambitious, and religious person? You and I know that the best person to hand over a management of a company to will be somebody that is industrious. But why did our colonial master did everything they can to make sure when they give the flag independence, they left Nigeria in the hands of the Fulani, fatalist, spendthrift to rule Nigeria against the industrious and religious Biafrans, despite the fact that the oil and gas that make Nigeria what she is concentrated in Biafra land. These are the things we need to put in context to understand that our problem did not, or Nigerian problem as it is, and by extension, Biafra problem predated the flag independence. So it's actually our colonial master that handed over the marginalization, the hatred, pass it down after the flag independence to the current stooges they have in Nigeria today that is ruling that country. You understand what I mean? So it's the same perspective. When the British people are going, they knew, of course, that if they allow Biafra to be in control of these vast resources, that they will manage it so well, and it will not be to their own advantage, that those things are managed very well and used for the indigenous people. And that is why, if we look down the history, all the policies, starting from the Britain to Nigeria, has been rigged against Biafrans, where the resources are. If you want to start from the population census and the election prior to, the census before the independent election, you will see Britain made sure it was rigged, make sure that all those things were rigged in advantage to the fatalist Fulanese, so they can hold the resources and control the oil and gas resources. And that has continued, unfortunately, to date. And that is why Nigeria has become what it is today. Nigeria is in a sorry state of political and economic underdevelopment because of the policy passed down from the colonial master to the current handlers of Nigeria. And these people are handling Nigeria on behalf of the Britain people. If that policy has continued, unfortunately, trying to hold Biafrans down, they've held themselves down because all the vast resources, the oil vast resources we have been mismanaged. The same thing is also to say about the gas reserve we have. We don't have control of it, and the same people have the control of it, and it's going to go, unfortunately, in the same direction. So what I'm saying in essence is that the over dependence on the resources in Biafra land, be it oil, be it gas, was because of the the direction or the guidance of the British people on the stronghold. It's foundational. I think that's the key word. It's foundational. British government laid the foundation for it, and of course the current handlers of Nigeria, who is handling Nigeria on their behalf, because Nigeria is a company of the British government, so they follow the same foundation, which is to only narrow their face, their mind into the oil and gas in Biafra land. And in order to actually highlight it again, if you remember, in our first edition, I mentioned about what the British Prime Minister then, Harold Wilson, said. He said the dead bodies of 500,000 Biafrans will not force Britain to change her policy concerning Nigerian civil war. Because of why? We don't trust what they will become with their vast resources. You can see that. That's a British Prime Minister in the 60s, 60 to 70, I think 64 to 1970, saying that they don't trust what Biafrans, if they allow them to go, will become with their vast resources. You can see it's foundational. Britain has always wanted the gas and our resources, oil and gas, to be used for their own benefit against the people, and the people they put there today are still following their colonial masters' line of thought. Unfortunately, they don't understand that the policy is also against them, because it doesn't favor any indigenous person in Nigeria. That policy, it doesn't favor the Fulani, it doesn't favor that is Fulani, ordinary Fulani, ordinary Hausa man or Yoruba man or a Biafran. None of this policy favors them. Is to the benefit of the colonial master. So until they come to realize that what we should actually do, and that is what IPOB is all about. We're trying to open the eyes of the indigenous people to realize that there need to be a change of thought, a change of direction. This foundational policy given to us by the colonial master, we need to shift away from them. But I'm happy that in most African countries now, see what is happening in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. People are beginning to realize that yes, Africa is what it is today because of the foundation the colonial master laid for us. We need to extricate ourselves from that foundation. So Nigerians in general need to extricate themselves from the colonial foundation and move towards another direction, which is what exactly Marginalisation and IPOB is trying to open the eyes of Nigerians to. That the status quo have to change. We need to do our own things our own way. We need to be good neighbors, because for us to be good neighbors, we need to understand that we are different people we can live as good neighbors and cooperate and use the resources in our various land for the good of the people. There are many resources up north, you know. There are, you can think of uranium, you have it in the north. Think of gold, is there. Think of, you know, there's even one they call californium, which is causing the problem in Borno region, where you have the Boko Haram. You understand? If you look at the southwest too, there are so many resources there. So Nigeria is blessed with enough resources that if we can all look inward and use these resources for our people, then we will move forward as indigenous people. So
right, thank you.
Let
me just bring in Mazi Ume. Thank you, Doc. That was very elaborate. But in that very elaborate description Doc painted, which is very factual as well, there are three things I want you, Mazi Ume, to look at so that we can begin to look at this mindset we talked about, this paradigm, and shifting it, because people need to understand the foundation of what they're shifting. Then vis-a-vis what people sometimes misconstrue as conspiracy theories without knowing the historical background of those things as fact. Frederick Lugard, in that handover note Dr. Ife alluded to, was very explicit, and his portrayal or description of the different ethnic nationalities, the three major ones at least, is still what this country or the colonial masters hold as template till date. And that is what the Fulani also operate with. That is the format they have been given right from the word go to operate. I was just studying last week and I looked at, I said, what Ahmadu Bello declared soon after the flag independence, or even why the motion was being proposed in 1959, referencing his godfather Osman Danfodio, who made that statement some 200 years ago, which was after, even before the amalgamation. I was asking myself, truly this is a foundation laid way back and solidly anchored. Certainly the British must be aware of this, and that's why, like Doc was saying, why do they prefer the dullard, the laissez-faire, lackadaisical, unintelligent person to manage their estate instead of the industrious, illustrious, intelligent, and otherwise? It seems like it's a match made in hell between the Fulanis and this country. But clearly, the envy about us was there from the word go, even before the amalgamation. Whatever point they started exploring the expedition to West Africa, maybe some people said is the, again, is a myth or a reality, the connection between us and Jews, and the historical antecedents also following that connection, that made it clear from day one that we were not favored. And as such, even our own resources were up for grabs, so for plundering, as you rightly pointed out, whereas our oil and gas is for everybody, the gold, the platinum, the uranium, and all the other solid mineral resources up north in Zamfara, in Sokoto, in Kebbi, and elsewhere in Borno, belongs to an elite oligarchy. And this country does not say anything about it. Have you ever heard of any conflict between them and the international community? If not for recently, many people would have known exactly that there is huge deposit of such wealth in the north, such that they can do just fine, very well, if not better than us, if everybody were to go on their own. So, Mazi, I laid this background as well so that I can ask you, what are the other conspiracy theories that have been built up over time around oil and gas, Biafra oil and gas precisely? Because it's important that Biafrans begin to understand with IPOB the root cause of our problems, or the hatred, marginalization, the hunger or thirst for our blood, where the root cause come from. So this is blood oil and the flaming gas. But the foundation is what we are trying to excavate tonight, so that Biafrans will know exactly what the battle is all about. Mazi, can you expatiate a little bit more about other conspiracy theories that tie up to this, linking our oil and gas being for all as the envy and also the root source of the bitterness, hatred, and marginalization of our people?
Thank you once more. Well, several sources have pinned the envy and the way the British government, threw the Biafrans under the bus, to be rolled upon. Several sources have pinned them down. That the British government is actually working for you in this regard, taking into cognizance the fact that what happened in Haiti. Don't forget that when they discovered that it was Igbo people as slaves in Haiti that defeated the French and kicked them out. And so when they came to this part of Africa, the Western Africa, and discovered that this is actually the home of the same Igbo people that defeated the French, and during the Balkanization, when the Biafrans were handed over to, or the Igbo people were handed over as well, together with Nigeria, handed over to the British to take charge of, that bitterness was also handed over together to them to make sure that these people are caged, never give them any inch of allowance, never give them any opportunity to raise their head. So it wasn't something that started today. It started even before the amalgamation itself. You go even to the New World, the Americas. The bulk of the revolutions, the revolts that rose there, were championed by Igbo people. Those who told themselves that instead of being subservient to their fellow human beings, that they would rather die. You remember the Igbo landing, the slave landing, and all that. So it didn't start today. And also, coming back to today, the present day, you find out that if you come down to our natural resource, the oil and gas section of it, you find out that you see several reports, but these are underground report, background reports that some are never made open. Is that the oil, the Biafra's oil, is in classifying oil, that is under the classification of oil, that the Biafra's oil falls under sweet crude oil. Sweet crude. They have sweet crude and sour crude. Sweet crude is the crude with less than 0.5 sulfur, and the sour crude is the crude with more than 0.5 sulfur. And what does sulfur do? Sulfur, of course, is very, very dangerous. It causes it contributes to a lot of corrosion to materials, both pipelines, when conveying oil and all that, oil and all that, and to materials, whatever it comes in contact with, it destroys it. So the oil in Biafra land is a sweet crude, and it has very, very low sulfur. So it takes less to process and get into the market. You don't have to invest too much into it to get into the market. So when you go through most of these reports, you find out that it seems that what like Europe and America and all these other developed countries, what they use is the Biafra oil, which has less sulfur, and in their machineries it causes less fumes. Then what Nigeria goes out to import back is the soy crude, which has more sulfur from other countries. So they come into Biafra land and take sweet crude, and they return. What Nigeria brings back is what? The soy crude. That is why you go into Nigerian streets, you see fumes. You see the destruction of cars and machineries that use oil to operate. So if you look deep into this, you find out that the fight, the fight to grab Biafra's oil, especially, is on a global scale. Not because of the way some people see it, they see it as something that on the superficial, maybe is a fight between, like on the Nigeria side, it's just a superficial fight on Nigeria side, but there are deeper facts behind this, behind what's going on, which can never, ever. But what we are doing today is that we tell the world, those who are interested. We are not saying that we are talking, when we talk about Biafra's sovereignty and the referendum today, we are not saying that we are pushing anybody out, but rather that we do business like men, like people, like civilized people. For instance, in December last year, that was the last Nigeria's declaration of oil, the last production of oil they got last year. They declared 1.48 million barrels. And don't forget that whatever Nigeria declares as the monthly production is what they were told. Nigeria government, whatever they declare, the NNPCL, whatever they declare is what they are told to declare, not the exact quantity that is produced. Most times you get over 5 to 6 million barrels a day, but only 1 point something million of it comes back into the country. They take that is what they say they bring back everything, because like I've said, due to the less sulfur content of Biafra's oil, they take everything they get from Biafra land and get just about this 1.48 million barrels that you heard that Nigeria generated actually came from other countries whose oil have more sulfur content. So you see how these things are. That the whole world is actually interested in Biafra's oil. Not only Britain, not only the United States and all that. Because of how sweet, and by sweet I mean how less sulfuric in content it has. So that is just it. Thank you.
Thank you, Machineke. Yeah, very correct. The grade of our crude, which you rightly described as sweet crude, is obviously less hazardous to health. It's also of less pollution, as you rightly pointed out, easier to crack or easier to refine, if you like, than the sour one, which is the reason why the West are always, Britain in particular, always sitting on top of our oil. That is a known fact. And that's also one of the issues I will highlight as to why we face a lot of problems with the upstream subsector of the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. Always there's issue of crude oil theft, bunkering. I don't know what the statistics say, but definitely Nigeria must be in the top rank of countries when it comes to oil, bunkering, crude theft, and everything. Again, it's because of the demand or the hunger for our grade or brand of crude oil. This has led to other things like pipeline vandalization, because those who want to steal the oil don't mind breaking the pipelines wherever they see it. And of course, you ask yourself, why are there so many pipelines laid over thousands of miles to take the oil away from Biafra land to elsewhere in the name of going to refine it when the whole thing can be done locally within Biafra land and sold to genuine willing partners at market value, not the underhand transactions and businesses people run with oil and gas. I want us to look at some of the challenges, or what I call anomalies, in both the upstream and downstream subsectors of the oil and gas industry. Now, take a brief may come in. I know there are so many other issues, like in the Niger Delta, and also political instability, including the security. These are all linked with oil and gas. Wherever there are natural resources of immense value, expect insecurity, because that's what those who know the geopolitics and the business of it are all after. If you don't create the chaos, it's not good business for them. So what are the anomalies that we face in Biafra land which are directly linked to this same issue in discourse?
Thank you again. I will just make a few comments about the question he asked my brother Ibe before I dive into the upstream and downstream peculiar problem. He said, just to add to what he said about the problem starting from predating our amalgamation. Just to add to it, you see, the colonial masters identify the quality, the human resources of Biafran people, not only our national resources. We are also endowed with great human resources, which we can, I don't want to waste so much time going into that. We all know that we are very resourceful people. Even they admitted that. Even the former Secretary of State in America, Henry Kissinger, said once about Igbo people that they are wandering Jews of West Africa. They are gifted and talented, and because of that, they are resented by their neighbors. So we know, even America know, the West know, they know who we are, even more than we ourselves, Biafrans. Sometimes maybe we don't even know who we are. We are blessed people with God-given vast human and natural resources, and that is the basis of the envy. And that envy and jealousy has continued up to today. Even what is happening to our leader, Marginalisation, is a continual illegal detention. After he was kidnapped from Kenya since June 2021. Despite many court rulings in his favor, is a testimony for the same hatred and marginalization of Biafrans in Nigeria. Today, Sunday Igboho is walking free. He is demanding for Oduduwa nation, but is walking free, while our leader, Marginalisation, is detained for asking for Biafran nation. Just 3 days ago, the General Appeal Court upheld the legal judgment of 2017 by Nigeria that prescribed IPOB, for demanding for what? Biafra restoration in line with self-determination law. Oduduwa nation is not prescribed. Arewa people are not prescribed. It's only Biafrans that have been prescribed. This is telling you that all these are stark testimony of the hatred and marginalization that continue to be held against Biafrans, which is foundational. So let me now talk about the issues in the upstream and downstream. When we talk of the upstream, we're talking about extraction, exploration and things like that. And when we're talking about downstream sector, we're talking about refinery and from refining the product to delivering the product to the end users. You see, the upstream one, of course, the first thing you will notice there is most of the company extracting this oil are foreign companies. The Shell of this world, the ExxonMobil, the all are Italian, Western international company. No indigenous company to say, can export oil in Nigeria. Nigeria is over 60 years independent. We have vast people that are educated in many fields of mining, all kind of fields. Does it mean that most of the people that work in these international companies are Nigerians, Biafrans? Okay, that shows you that we can actually own and endorse in digital companies that can explore and get this gas, oil and gas, and deliver it for our purpose. But no, we have not been allowed to go to that level because the Western country want to be in charge, And as it is today, Nigeria does not even know the amount of oil that they produce on a daily basis. Yes, they said at the peak of Nigerian oil production, we are producing about 2.4 million barrels per day, but probably now it's about 1.6 or 1.7 million barrels per day. But how do we work out that figure? To me, it's just a figure they made up, because talking to one of my colleagues that work in that sector, say Nigeria does not have, the gauge to measure what they actually produce. What they do is that when they are loading the ship with the refined products, is whatever the ship in the sea declare that, yes, my tanker is so capacity, and this is what you've given me. That is what they will quote. So so they don't have a way to measure it ab initio. Which to me,
and no accountability.
No accountability, exactly.
Those who
compare that to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia can monitor,
load whatever they want and go where nobody accounts for it.
Nobody accounts for it. Saudi Arabia today can account for every single drop of oil. They have a computer system that monitor it from when it comes out from the ground to when it goes to everywhere. Through the pipeline, they can monitor everything to the single drop. Why can't Nigeria do the same? Why can't Nigeria replicate the same? That is a question we have to ask ourselves, and I think it's deliberate. I don't think it's something that we don't have the know-how, or Biafrans don't have the capacity. We definitely have the capacity and the know-how in Biafra land, and we are resourceful enough to do it. But they have not allowed Biafrans to take charge of their destiny, and that is the core problem in that area. But it's not, and that is, you see, apart from this problem of not having accountability, there are other problems, which is pollution. The land have been polluted. Nobody is cleaning up anywhere. When Kensaro Rewea tried to raise that issue, obviously, we know what happened to him. So, and the same thing is still there till today. A lot of people cannot even get access to clean water in those areas. They don't have access to fish and get fresh from their river anymore. So people in that sector, in that area has been Biafrans, because they are largely Biafrans. In that area has been rendered completely, economically disadvantaged, by the oil exploration going on in that zone, and nobody is bothered about cleaning up anything,
No, not at all.
Not at all, exactly.
Yeah, even with even with all the environmental degradation, as you mentioned, lack of infrastructure or inadequate infrastructure, and of course the lack of legislation or proper regulation, because in Nigeria, I want us to talk a little bit about how come the politics of oil well, Biafra oil wells, is still a mystery and a hidden, almost a classified information within the government, which it shouldn't be. Those who own oil wells in Biafra land, how many of them or what percentage of them are Biafrans? Not up to 6%. And then who do they account to? Do they account to the, what is the accounting system? What is the operational methodology, nobody knows. How do you acquire an oil well? It's believed in Nigeria the only way to acquire it is by your, they call it political loyalty. If you say Rankadede, or if you are able to sell your brothers and sisters or kill them as Robos or Denmark has been instructed to, maybe you'll be promised oil well in the next 20 years. Just maybe. So I want us to look at this. These are some of the anomalies in my own mind that made me think, why all these games about our oil and gas? This is a sector that ordinarily should be very transparently run. It should be something open, as you said. It doesn't matter which corporation or company, whether they're multinationals that you're engaging in, but then the whole thing should be open and transparent. And they pay their dues, taxes and other revenues, for the development of the host community and the host country, which is Biafra. But none of that is happening. What do the owners of oil well, who are not even the owners of the land in the first place, pay? To the community, to the government? Do you know, though? Please, if anybody knows, you can help me. I'm trying to find out the answers to some of this.
Well, I certainly don't know who owns oil well in Nigeria. I wish I know. I wish as a Biafran I can own one myself. But the only thing one can say from, commonly available information in the public domain is that Nigerian oil well are distributed to political loyalists. They are distributed to international heavyweights, So most of these oil wells are owned by foreigners and some Nigeria that are privileged. We know the story about the richest Nigerian woman, I think somebody Alakija, who was a hairdresser or somebody to late Miriam Babangida, other hairdresser or somebody that sold clothes for her, and during Babangida regime, he gave her an oil well, and that is the source of her wealth today, and she became the richest, at least Nigerian woman, if not African woman. I'm not sure now, but she's really wealthy from just owning an oil well, So that is how it is. Most of the oil wells are not owned by Biafrans, but who suffer most of the degradation from oil exploration, and there's also lack of infrastructure, as you rightly pointed out, in those regions, whereas they are the one that has the vast resources. So the truth is that we are suffering the degradation in Biafra without actually benefiting anything from the oil and gas. You understand? So I don't have the answer to that to say that
I know. I'm not putting you on the spot because it's a bit of a. It's a
very question.
It will take a lot of digging in, Because as I said, it's highly hidden, classified, and without the view of anybody, even those who should be in the know, including people who work in the sector. Top people in the sector have no authentic information to give. Mazibe, let me come to you. You may have had an educated guess on that question. It would be good for our listeners to share your perspective, and also very soon I'll be opening the lines so that the listeners can join us and make their own contributions as well. Looking at those anomalies we mentioned, Mazibe, and also the reference made by Dr. Kekwe about agitation, using Ken Saru as an example. Agitation for resource control has been a major issue in the politics of oil and gas in Nigeria. This also fueled self-determination quest. There is no doubt that the birth of IPOB or even MASAP or any other movement that has come up in the last 20 years for the restoration of Biafra has as one of its pivots the quest for equitable access to resource control. So has this development in your mind, in your own thinking, hasn't this development, let me rephrase it, heightened the animosity? And if so, why? Okay, I want to ask a direct question. Maybe I would prefer to ask our listeners. Should individuals actually own oil well? Shouldn't the oil well be owned by the state at least? Or even the local communities? And then they can pay something to the federal government. That way, I believe all the communities that are endowed with oil and gas will be mini Dubais by now. So, Maz, I want to bring back that question. The quest for or agitation for resource control, which obviously gave rise to our quest for self-determination as well. Has this really angered not only the local rulers, but even their international collaborators?
Well, I think I will have to chip in just a little thing to the previous question that Dr. Ekekwe touched on. Exactly. If you go through the book written by what is his name? The historian that died a few years ago. He said that if you go there, that the war and the control of Biafra's oil and gas, Frederick Forsyth here, his name, if you go through the book, oil and gas in Biafra land and the war, what fueled it, you start from there to, pencil down the people that own oil block in Biafra, or Biafra's oil block and all that. So it started from, if you go through that book, he made mention of journalists, male journalists in Britain, media houses. Of course, the chief of them is the BBC. Media houses, politicians, businessmen and women, and oil companies in Britain. So those are the people that started sharing the oil blocks, and then they handed some of these oil blocks to the people, the men that helped them to fight the Biafra war. Some of them, not the bulk of them, and that is how people like Theophilus Danjuma got oil blocks, Obasanjo, I named them. All the men and women that helped them fight, suppress Biafra, got oil blocks. So I don't think the answer to that is far-fetched. The people that helped them to suppress Biafra got oil blocks. Why they got the bigger parts of the oil blocks? The people that helped them to suppress Biafra got just one or two here and there and all that. And the agitation, what fueled the agitation? The agitation is simply, be it MOSOP, be it MASOP, and today's IPOB. The agitation is fueled by the fact that the people that actually own these resources, they benefit nothing from it. Actually, what they get from the resources in their land is all debt, destruction of properties, and lives. That's what we still get up to today. All the crises happening in Biafra land today, they are all tied to what? The oil and gas in Biafra land. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it at all. So, if we actually decide to break this down, bit by bit, you will actually find out that if you go back to during the days of is it Masop Ogoni liberation movement, we saw how our brother, the late Ken Saro-Wiwa, got into it, and we saw how he ended. It was all about the oil, because at the point he was mainly talking about what, that the people in the land were benefiting nothing from the oil, and why they got the total brunt of the oil spillage, environmental degradation and pollution and all that. That was all they got. And up to today, down to today, what do we get from oil, the oil in our land? There's nothing. What we actually get is destruction, oil pollution, and all that. We get nothing actually from it. And that is what is fueling the world. Not even for us, for those of us in IPOB and Marginalisation Kano. You know, you've heard our Marginalisation Kano on many broadcasts say that oil is not the problem. We just want to have our dignity back. You know, that we can actually distribute oil to whichever country that needs it. That we need our dignity back. That is for us. We need our dignity back, that we will be able to define our own lives. Say what happens in our lives, not people staying thousands of miles away and deciding.
And that was a great promissory note, you know, that anybody can take to the bank. But unfortunately, as it were, that reassurance from Oyendu fell on deaf ears. And that was why I was asking the question that the moment you are on self-determination quest, they link it to this is an agitation for resource control. And the moment you succeed, they are going to lose access to free oil and gas of the best quality or brand that they've been enjoying over time. Mazi, thank you for that, and it's about that time that we open the lines, but we will still continue discussing this very interesting topic. We would love to get your interaction, participation, dear listeners. Today we have the two lines available. You can call both ways. If you're calling from the UK, please call direct. On either of the two lines, I'm going to give the numbers out. If you're calling from outside of the United Kingdom, you are better off calling via WhatsApp. The first line is from the UK. Direct call will be better, best for you, unless you don't have the minute allowance. Then you may also try on WhatsApp. It will be 0744 81 83132 074 481 83132. And if you're calling that number from outside of the United Kingdom, simply add the country code +44. That will be +44 744 818 3132 from outside of the UK. The second line to call is direct call from the UK. Will be 078 177 96032. And if you're calling from outside of the UK, best via WhatsApp will be +44 781 779 6032. And please, you may try the Telegram as well on the second line, but you're better off on WhatsApp or direct call. I'll be very glad to hear your views. Don't forget, this is still the UK Timeout on Radio Biafra, and tonight's panel of Dr. Onyeke Kekwe, the Deputy National Coordinator IPOB UK, and Chief Ibe Chiezokubundo, the IPOB Brighton Zonal Coordinator, are on here with us. Unfortunately, Mazi Uzoma, Austin Uzoma, our regional coordinator from the North Central, hasn't been able to join us. I'll bring him on another day. Let me quickly also highlight that our good friend, the great novelist, Frederick Forsyth, is still very much alive. He's 86 years old now, if I'm not mistaken. I remember he was one of our special guests at the May 30th celebration we had in Edinburgh, Scotland. Last minute he couldn't come to the parade ground because of health issues, but he's still strong, hale and hearty, and we give Chukwukadama glory for his life. We need people like him who are a repository of invaluable history, knowledge, and wisdom to still be around. He's a great friend of Biafra, and for those who don't know, because we need to excavate some of these historical antecedents that have been brushed aside or buried because some people don't want to face the past or the truth. Before we get the calls on, once calls come through, please signal me so that we can take the callers on. But before the calls come in, Chief Ibe, you are talking about the impact. There are also other several impacts that oil and gas business, whether upstream or downstream, has affected the life of Biafrans who don't benefit much, if anything, from this. Let's look at the benefits for local communities vis-a-vis the hazards and the hardship they face. Also, let's look at the federal government reinvestment of the proceeds of oil and gas, Biafra oil and gas, back in Biafra land. First, take a look at what they call the 13% derivation formula or whatever for the oil producing communities in the country called Nigeria. Then look at the ongoing developmental projects via different agencies. We used to have the UNPADEC, now it's the NDDC. And the disparity or dichotomy really in the distribution of these projects. Just last 2 weeks, at a preliminary session of the Senate, the Minister of State, Petroleum Resources for Gas, EPO, the man from, I think, from Akwa Ibom State, was being queried. Emeripe was his full name, regarding some projects that the Tinubu administration is citing, and they seem to have bypassed the Southeast totally, especially the high-pressure gas pipeline projects. I was very shocked by his response. He danced around denying that the Southeast is not marginalized, was not bypassed. But in the end, his conclusion was that there is a proposal for extension or extending the network they are currently doing to the Southeast. Only a proposal. So that means there is nothing on ground. It's one of those things they say is in the pipeline, and everything in the pipeline gets bunkered, gets missing and lost as far as the zoo is concerned. Doc, maybe I'll start with you. Where does this paradox leave us in terms of, yes, we have the oil, we're not even allowed to produce it. Some people siphon it. They leave us with nothing. Our environment is gone. The area they call Niger Delta, which is riverine Biafra, I really cry every time for my brothers and sisters in riverine Biafra and all the environmental degradation and hardship they suffer despite these endowments like Chukwukadama.
As you've said, it's shocking to know that the gas resources of Nigeria is located in the heart of Biafra land in Imo State, and now there is a project to pipe pressure gas pipe, which will help household and industrial usage of this gas when it's being explored, and to find out that, as usual, because it's now the common practice in Nigeria, Southeast is excluded despite the fact that they own the gas, you know. So you can imagine that kind of anomaly. If there's supposed to be a pipeline, a pressure pipeline, it ought to start from the region before it extends to the other region. But other regions are having it where the Southeast is not having it. That's a clear, testimony to the hatred and marginalization of Southeast. This is not the first time it's happening. During Buhari administration, they borrowed about $20-something billion from China to do a wide gauge rail line all over Nigeria. The only place that was excluded is Southeast. Up to today, we don't have any access to that, whereas the bulk of the resources on which that loan was granted is the oil and gas of Biafra land, whereas we didn't have any any of those projects in our zone. So that is what we suffer from, continuously in the contraction called Nigeria. Looking at the downstream sectors of oil sector also, is it refinery? None of the refinery in Biafra land is working. Every time they pay lip service to it, they spend billions of dollars on it. At the end of the day, it produces nothing. The one in Warri, Port Harcourt, none is working. Okay? Even the Dangote one in Lagos that has capacity to produce about 650,000 barrels of refined, 650,000 barrels of oil per day is struggling to even get any crude to refine, and most people suffering it are also Nigerian, including Biafrans. You understand what I'm saying? Because they can't even sell crude to him. And why is that so? I suspect is because most of the oil field or oil well are owned by foreigners, so they prefer to get the oil and sell in international market rather to sell to local refinery. So Dangote is now left with going to buy the same crude oil they get from Biafra land from international market at a high rate, refine it, and of course pass the high price down to both Nigerians and Biafrans. And you all know that if the petroleum is being sold, or if petrol is being sold at 1,000 naira, I don't know how much it is right now. 1,000 naira, for example, in Lagos, before you get down to Biafra land, where the crude is, it might be selling at 1,100, if not 1,200. That's usually the case. So we suffer at the end of the day for all the inefficiencies, that are in this downstream sector of the oil and gas sector. So the best thing for us really as Biafrans is to be in control of our own destiny by having our own nation. We are not necessarily agitating for that because of oil and gas. As you and Chief Ume has rightly pointed out, our leader, Mazi Nnamdi, has given a very valid, promising note to all Nigerians. If we want to be free to maintain our dignity, we want to be free so that we can have our own destiny in our own hands, so we can able to use our human resources to develop ourselves. We have other areas we can develop ourselves into, not necessarily relying on oil and gas. You understand? So if Nigerians can feel reassured and let Biafran go, we'll give them oil and gas, and because you want you want a viable market to sell your finished goods. So if Arewa country and the Dudua country is viable and the market is expanding, it's to the benefit of we Biafrans. So giving them oil and gas for development is no issue. So they should not feel threatening that we want to keep the oil and gas to ourselves. That is far from what IPOB led by Marginalisation is all about. So, Mazi.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Ekekwe. Mazi Ibe, how do we begin to address these inequalities or imbalance in this system? We've already touched on what it looks like. Okay, by the way, I've just been informed by one of our listeners to say that, yeah, Dr. Ekekwe, you're right. The pump price in Southeast, in Biafra land, is on the average about 1,250 naira. And of course, you know that during the festive period it's always much higher than that. Whereas if you go to places like Abuja, the capital territory, federal capital territory, or Lagos, the commercial capital, where you would have expected it to be higher is slightly lower. And I'm just also seeing the news, I don't know whether it's the horse, because APC, I don't trust anything they say. He said that Dangote refineries is crashing the price of PPMS to 870 naira per liter. That is almost 35-40% decrease. I'm not going to say that's good news, but my issue is there's a lot of imbalance between how the oil and gas sector operational management, if there is anything like management in the zoo, affects Biafrans and the rest of the country. We are always at the wrong end of the stick and treated harshly economically more than the rest of the country that produces little or nothing of the same oil and gas. How do we begin to address this? And I also want to invite our listeners to join us in this discussion tonight. Biafra's oil and gas resources, sources if you like, of the hatred and marginalization. I would like to get your thoughts. Call us on the numbers +44 744 8183 132 on WhatsApp from outside of the UK, and from within the UK you might also try the WhatsApp, or you call direct on 0744 8183 132. We have two lines open. You may try the second line if you're unlucky with this first one, which is +44 781 77 96032 +44 78 177 96032. We'll be very happy to receive your call and allow you the time to make your own contributions. Mazibe, let's look at this in terms of, again, over-reliance on oil and gas. How is this affecting the overall growth or development of the local economy?
And of course, you must agree with me that any resource anywhere that is relied upon, the way oil and gas is relied upon, like the main sector of Nigeria's economy, that sector, that resource is always overstretched, totally overstretched, and the reason is that this oil, this resource, this vital resource, because don't forget that oil and gas, especially oil, was what gave rise to the Industrial Revolution, or the first Industrial Revolution. So, like we all know, you cannot take away the fact that any resource that is totally dependent, I have lots of dependency, especially globally, that communities around where this resource comes from, every community surrounding it must always bear the brunt and the burden of it. So, and what's going on in Biafra land, we cannot wave it away as a result of the oil and gas in Biafra land. And if we look deep down, excuse me, can you? Mazeke, can you take over, please? Let me just.
Okay, no problem, Mazi. Those are our generation next. They are the ones we are fighting for Biafra for. So maybe the baby wants to make contribution, which is very much allowed. Dear listeners, you can join us on this interesting discussion on the topic, Biafra's oil and gas resources, source of hatred and marginalization. We've been able to almost establish it as another statement of fact that our natural endowment in the form of natural resources, oil and gas in particular, has not just become the envy of the colonial masters, the West as we call them, but also the source of hatred and marginalization locally or within the contraction called Nigeria. So we begin to understand why we are treated the way we've been treated, why we have suffered the much we have suffered so far in that contraction, which necessitates why we are fighting legitimately, peacefully to extricate ourselves from irrevocable agreement or marriage. Tonight I have in the panel IPOB UK Deputy National Coordinator Dr. Onyeka Ikekwe and our Brighton Zonal Coordinator Chief Ibelme Ichiezoku Bondo. While we wait for your calls to come in, the lines are open. I said it once again. Those of you who are familiar with our program, who have been following us, are very much familiar now with the numbers. But I'll say it once again. There are two lines available to you tonight. The first is from within the UK. Best option is a direct call to the number 0744 8183 132. Or from outside the UK, you can call via WhatsApp on the same number, including the country code. That will be +44 744 8183 132. The second number is direct 078 177 96032. And on WhatsApp +44 781 779 6032. We'll be glad to receive your call and get your own opinion on this topic. Share your experiences with us, if you have any, in the oil and gas sector of the Nigerian economy, especially how the operations affect our people and our land. So Dr. Kiwa was asking about the impact on our local communities in many ways, economically, environmentally, and otherwise.
Yes, Mazi. You see, you also mentioned about the effect of over reliance, reliance on over.
Yes, over reliance on
relying so much.
When we have other.
Yeah, relying so much on oil and gas rather than diversify the economy. You know, that has continued to be the basis of why Nigeria is not economically as viable as it should. Because one, the vast oil and gas revenue they've collected over the years has been largely mismanaged due to endemic corruption, you know, and the economy is exposed to any shock in the international oil market. You know, if you look at what is happening just in the last 1 week now, since President Trump came to power, he has actually increased the amount of oil production in US, and actually talking to oil producing countries to produce more, so as to force the price of international crude to come down. And if that happens, you know, that will put a lot of pressure on Nigerian foreign exchange earning. And of course, that will also put pressure on the amount of dollars Nigeria has in their reserve, you know, and that means, you know, it will scale down to the country because the country will not be able to meet its dollar requirement. And of course, there will be much more inflation. Inflation in Nigeria today is already 40-something%. You can imagine what will happen if the oil price fall further and Nigerian government starts struggling with revenue. That means the inflation will go even higher than what it is now, which is not helping anybody in the country, including Biafrans. You know, so the issue of our gas depends on how well Nigeria puts the gas to use. If we cannot use this gas to produce electricity, so generate electricity in Biafra land, especially to drive, you know, the local economy, production, you know, it's of no use to the common man, because if the common man can use this gas to you know, to power industries, to make people industrial revolution kind of in Biafra land, that means employment will be there. That means government can generate revenue. That means, you know, it will trickle down to the man on the street, you know. And we know Biafrans are very resourceful. All they need is just the enabling environment to be able to, you know, to really fully industrialize Biafra land. And the main bottleneck to that is lack of steady power supply, which, if this gas is available for that use, it will help to better the life of our people. But with the country through that line, your guess is as good as mine. So that's all I can really say in that respect. As I said earlier on,
the wide guess, to be honest, we don't know. With the zoo, it defies logic. Sometimes it defies the most basic reasoning. For example, I believe that President Trump is taking these very drastic, I must say, economic measures and making, you know, wide pronouncements and executive orders to see if he can check global excesses, you know, not a spokesperson, but this is how I read what he has done in the last few days that he's been into power, just less than 2 weeks. In St. Climes, such measures will make the leaders or rulers of the place, the space, tighten up a little bit. You would expect that corruption will go down, but in the zoo, the opposite will be the case. Because the people who are in charge, the vagabonds in power, don't care. all they care is to line their own pockets. Whatever the global economic indices or indicators imply, it doesn't affect them directly. The poor masses will be at the brunt. Usually it will be mostly Biafrans, and our land will suffer. Chief Ume, you were talking about how to address the imbalance. I don't know whether you are able to resume on that. Just before we go into maybe the last 3 questions, while we are still expecting more calls, if any calls, sorry, we've already received one today. If you want to discuss a little bit on how we can address the imbalance, but while you do that, I may also want to ask you the question whether we think that the process of distribution and marketing of petroleum products in the country is transparent, with Dangote refinery coming on stream. Don't know the truth about his effectiveness and the production efficiency and capacity, but what we do know that he has sort of become the only functional refinery in the country, apparently. Is this another leeway to monopoly for Dangote Group? So if you may, we just want to take those 2 or 3 questions and wrap them up as we dive into the last section of our discussion tonight.
Let me start with the last one. Of course, you see, Dangote refinery, from all indications, actually turned out to be a disruption from the status quo of men and women who own Nigeria and countries who own Nigeria having refineries in their countries and refining Nigeria's oil and bringing back to Nigeria. And in my own view, I would say if Nigeria continues to be there, in my own view, I would say I'm seeing Dangote selling off the refinery. That's in my own view, because he may not be able to compete, because this is not his Indomie, salt, cement, and all of this. Is now a global scale, market and war. Let me put it that way. He may not be able to survive, in the long term, because he's now. Don't forget that the project of building a refinery, I think it started with when Buhari was there, and it was a sort of like drawing him into the field. And when Buhari had gone, now this other man was brought in now to make sure they suffocate him. They gave him just that door to come in and feel like he's somebody and he's going to make the country something, not knowing that after drawing him, they're going to continue with what they're doing. So for me, I don't see it, even if he's there in the long term, he's going to continue struggling. It's not like it's not going to be like he's a monopoly in the salt, cement, and Indomie and the rest of them. And also, coming to the question of if Biafra's oil and gas resources are equitably distributed, that is a big no. Because don't forget that the 13% derivation, which is on ground at the moment, is simply as a result of the agitations, in the delta of River Niger, the coastal region of Biafra land, and also do not forget that all the parastatals set up, the Osopa deck, the Niger Delta Development Commission, and the most recent, which I think it was Benjamin Carlo, we are pushing for the Southeast and Development Commission and all that. All these are just charades. So what they do is that they use this to calm down the nerves of those whom they see as the major champions of agitation. For instance, if you go to the NNDC, is it NNDC or what? NNDC, you know, you find out that most of the people that rise up in the political stream of Niger Delta are people who pass through NNDC, you know. So they go there, they make themselves enrich themselves, and through there get the money with which they then launch themselves into politics, you know. You also go to Sapadek, that one is Ondo State something Oil Development Commission or something like that. So they create all these things to what ease off stress from themselves, just to create avenues for men to launch themselves into make money, launch themselves into politics, and come back. So, and in all this, nothing gets to the ordinary man on the street. Nothing ever gets to the ordinary man on the street. Let us even assume that this Southeast Development Commission that they were going to set up, if it ever happens, which is not what we are talking about. What we are talking about is totally taking our destinies into our own hands and be able to say what happens in our lives. Because it doesn't matter how many commissions they set up in Biafra land, how many parastatals they set up in Biafra land to take care of us. Nothing ever gets to us. Whatever proceed that comes from such commissions always go into individual pockets. So nothing ever gets to us. Simply because the people that manage these commissions or parastatals are always puppets to the people that set them up. Don't forget that all this is as a result of greed, people's greed unchecked. You know, if you find yourself in an environment where you are not checked by anything, no laws, nothing guards you, that is where the natural greed of every human being comes out. And that is what is unfolding in Nigeria and by extension Biafra land. For instance, all the governors, the politicians in Biafra land, they are given the leeway to take whatever they want to take for themselves and their families, you know, as a result of as a way of shutting their mouths up for whatever is happening in our land, you know. So, and at the end of the day, nothing gets to us. So, but we believe, and we know, not even believe, we know that the moment we take control of our land and our lives, in the name of Biafra sovereignty, having our own state, our own nation, we believe, we know that is when we will be able to design a system where everybody we stand equal, will be equal before the law and be accountable. Whatever office you occupy in Biafra land, you will be accountable. Because just look at the way what we are passing through in the course of this journey and the pains we are going through. And you now tell me that, because you know, when you have conversation with some people, some Nigerians, they tell you, oh, are the people that are going, if you have your Biafra today, are the people going to pilot their affairs, not the same people in politics? No. We have a way of doing our own things. We could even say that if Biafra stood today, after 10 years of initial setting up things, if you are coming from abroad, no way, don't participate in any political process that is going on in Biafra land. If you have ever participated in any Nigerian political process, do not come in and things like that. By way, you have a way of you set up the machinery of what curbing the debt and the fields which would have come in from the outside world and all that. You know, so we know that what we are saying, what we are talking about, we know that under Biafra, that we will be able to set up our lives aright and be able to compete in the Committee of Nations. Thank you.
Yes, we can establish on this program tonight that the hatred and marginalization of Biafrans Based on our resources, oil and gas precisely, is foundational, is intentional. Let me come back to you, Dr. Kepe. We've got a few more minutes before we start to round up. Is it also safe for us to establish as well that the successive governments, federal governments in Nigeria, have deliberately stalled on reviving the existing 4 refineries, particularly the 3 that are in Biafra land? At some point, late last year, APC again flew their kite and started saying, oh, the old Port Harcourt refinery at Eleme is now operational. It turned out to be another mirage. So are they doing this intentionally and deliberately to ensure that these refineries are never functional, when they are also paying lip service to building new ones, which the government is more than capable of doing? Yes, Dangote may have his as a private entrepreneur or business, but it would not stop a state from having theirs, and also other individuals who have interest in the sector should also be allowed. So Chief Ibrahim has already alluded that this Dangote refinery might be another ploy towards monopoly. So has the government been doing this intentionally to stop development of the oil and gas sector, particularly in Biafra land, where there are already 3 refineries lying fallow, resting for years and decades now?
Now, the Nigerian problem, as you said, we highlighted in this discussion, is foundational and intentional. That's the same thing that is happening to the refineries. You see, there was something I read a few months ago when Dangote was thinking of selling his refinery, and it was a news brief I saw, and it's from a credible website, that he's actually being told to sell off that refinery because the oil mafia internationally, which include the Western interests and all those things, were not in support of him having a refinery, because they prefer getting the Nigerian crude and not selling it locally, selling it in international market, and that is one. And two, obviously, the Nigerian government, successive Nigerian government, starting from Buhari and then Tinubu currently, have secured loan on Nigerian oil that has not even been taken out of the ground. So our loans are based on that, resources. So as you are refining resources, it's being taken abroad to pay for our debts. So in that case, no local refinery can even benefit from our local crude. So it's intentional for
unless they are subsidized, isn't it? And meanwhile, it's clear they have removed the subsidy.
So it's intentional for no refinery to work in Nigeria to the benefit of people benefiting from the status quo, which is mainly Western interests and through the enrichment of their few stooges that are working for them within the country. For me, the only way forward I see in the whole scenario is for all the indigenous people in Nigeria to come together and realize that IPOB is right in saying that we need to extricate ourselves from the foundational problem set out by the colonial master. The path that the colonial master has set for us, which we are toeing at the moment, we need to say no, we're no more going along this path. We'll come together and decide that, look, we need to come to the conclusion that the 1994 amalgamation has expired. It is time for all indigenous people to come together and say, let's go our separate way, so that collectively we will, individually we will thrive, and at the same time support each other collectively. If we continue to stay in one Nigeria, created by the British colonial master, nobody in that contraption is going to make any headway. But unfortunately for us in the IPOB, we have a lot of challenges, which has been occasioned by the vast resources we have in our region. You know, the recent discovery of vast amount of gas, especially in Egbema and Imo State, is not going to help our cause in a way. But at the same time, we know that restoration of Biafra is going to be a miracle, and it's going to happen. So far, we remain committed to it as IPOB, as a movement. Despite all the challenges thrown at us, we need to remain focused. We need to continue to go forward. As Mazi Jonathan used to say, there's no back for us to go to. So we have to continue to look forward and put in everything we can. Because if we don't restore Biafra in this our generation, I don't know. In fact, the contrary cannot be. I can't even imagine the contrary. So the only thing I know is that Biafra has to be restored as a sovereign nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Machineke. Thank you. And I must appreciate both of you gentlemen for being on this program tonight and for your very, very valuable insight into this topic of discussion. One would have expected that with the world tending towards green energy, alternative energy sources, and all the other promotion, electric cars and the rest of it, that the eyes on our oil and gas would have at least dimmed or gone down a little bit. The envy, the hatred, and all the other evil that blessings have added sorrow to us, which shouldn't be, would have waned. But now gas is in the new oil per se, and we are so blessed with it. So they are not going to leave us alone any sooner. We have to, as Dr. Ikpo said, be resolute, and we have to be very determined to fight on and secure our freedom. Is never served a la carte. Our freedom is not given on a platter of gold. You have to fight for it, and you have to fight for it consistently. That is why we in the global family of IPOB remain resolute, and we move, and we cannot be moved. That is the mantra for us here in the UK this year, because we need to be solid on the ground. The tempests will come, they will continue to come, the winds will blow, the storm will hit us, and we move. Mazi Ibe, what will be your thoughts regarding how we can come out of this oil and gas slavery, I call it?
What the Igbo proverb says, we know we've suffered so much, so much, partly because of the resources in our land, both the mineral resources and human resources in our land, and as well as the nature, who we are, just naturally who we are. You know, one thing we must make sure we continue to do, because I don't see any other. Don't forget what Oyendu said, that before us, there were no other people like us. And when we were gone, then we wish we lived forever. What we are doing with all our heart, without looking out for any benefit. So, the only solution for us, in my own thinking, is what? To continue doing what we are doing, keep shouting, because the way I see what we IPOB are doing, IPOB family members are doing all over the world, is tantamount to getting into your room at night, having shut your door and turned off your light, and you discover that there's a bee buzzing around your room. Of course you won't sleep. You won't be able to sleep. You must find a way to get it out, open your door or something like that for you to leave before you go to sleep. So what we are doing is that we are making noise that we believe that we get to its critical mass at some point. We've just been down this road for about 13, 14 years, and we'll continue on it. And we know of people who went through this road, although not the peaceful way, because our agitation is the peaceful means. We are not carrying arms to fight for our freedom. We are only making noise that we know will garner that critical mass at some point. To draw all the conscience, all the consensus human beings and nations around the world towards our side. And at some point, we may only believe that what we are doing, we are on the right path. So there's no other way for me. I don't see any other way rather than continue on the path we are going. Because I'm surely at some point, as we keep shouting, we are conscientizing so many people. I saw a video the other time, little children of about, I think the oldest should be about 10 years, and they were singing that, they put up a song where they were singing that their only hope is Biafra. You can imagine, just like that video that a journalist I think sometime in 1968, a Western journalist was asking a little Biafran soldier, a little boy, why are you fighting for Biafra? And he replied and said, Biafra is fighting for survival. So, what we need to continue doing is to conscientize. So many voices are rising in support of our cause. I believe we all know that. So many people, even those who had been issued, were asleep, they have all risen. They are coming out gradually from their cocoons to support our cause, to lend their voices and credence for what we are doing. And we believe that at some point we're going to hit that critical mass whereby conscientious minds around the world will tilt towards our side, and hear our cries. Because we are not asking for what doesn't belong to us. We are asking for what belongs to us. And that we must get. So that is just the point. Thank you.
Thank you, Ezbo Machineke, and that's a good passing shot from your end. Before I get Dr. Ekepe's passing shot for tonight, let me quickly inform our great listeners that next Sunday, by the special grace of Chukwuka Abiyama, I'll be back here, and we'll have a very interesting panelist as well to discuss further relating to today's topic, something else that is very crucial for Biafrans to learn. Nigeria's conspiracies and policies targeting Biafrans. There are so many of them out there. Tonight we just touched on a few, the ones that have a correlation or direct link with oil and gas sector and businesses and operations. But there are also several other conspiracies. I'm not talking about just theories. These are practical, foundational, intentional concepts and policies and programs that target Biafrans, not for good, but always for evil. And I will have in the studios Dr. Tina Eberechi. Remember, she was on this program, very eloquent, from the IPOB USA, a great strategist and mobilizer. Also, Wanda Mason Joko, our zonal coordinator at the London Forest Gate family, together with Maazi Lance Corporal Uzoma Murako, the former IPOB Southeast Regional Coordinator. These are the gentlemen that will be on this show next Sunday to look at the topic, Nigeria's conspiracies on policies targeting Biafrans. Don't forget, by the middle of the month or thereabouts, the next Sunday, which will be the 16th, we'll have a special guest. Lord Uchecho Pukalo will return to the program to talk to us about restorative justice, the consequences of spreading malicious lies and falsehood. If you remember, Lolo had petitioned some people who have been carrying out dangerous falsehood and evil, malicious lies against her personality, integrity, and even marital fidelity. So that is a program not to miss. You will be part of it, and I hope that the lines will be open for you from next Sunday. You get the flyers as usual about these programs coming up for the rest of the month of February. Dr. Iko, what will be your passing shot for tonight?
Okay. Thank you. My passing statement is to IPOB members worldwide and Biafras in general. You need to let them know that our journey to the restoration of Biafra may be challenging, and one of those challenges, or one of the key challenges, is the resources we have in Biafra land, mainly oil and gas, which international interests are bound, from multinational to different countries, and the structure left in Nigeria by our colonial master or colonialist. Let me call it. I don't like using the word master. The colonialist, which is Britain, left on the ground, that is still working against us. Despite these challenges, let us not make any mistake to feel that IPOB is led by Mazen and Kano is going to leave this fight unfinished. We are resolute, we are determined, and we believe that all our ancestors, all the people that lost their life during the genocidal war, all their spirits, all the people that have died in this struggle, and all what our people call Izumezu, Nejedi Bozi, and God Almighty Himself is with us on this journey. So we should have no fear. We should remain resolute, committed, put in our best. There's no going back. Biafra will be restored as a sovereign nation without fail. Mazen Nekane has said it. Everything he has said has come to pass, and this also will come to pass by the grace and by the special assistance of Chukwu Okike Abiyama.
Thank you very much. And it's right on top of the hour. Just before I leave, my passing shot will be on healthcare, because it's something that has really touched me personally over this weekend. A new UK research has revealed that over a third of UK adult population does does not know the link between high blood pressure and stroke. High BP is directly responsible for stroke. So take where you are an expert, I'm just reading out what I've just found out. Statistics show that some 100,000 people in the UK suffer from stroke annually. But thankfully, there are a little over 1.3 million survivors of stroke still living. That's the good news. But then, a regular check of our blood pressure, blood sugar, and other vital health checks and tests could help detect the signs of stroke early. As they say, a stitch in time saves 9. My thoughts and prayers are with my very good friend and brother, Chief Philip Ndubuisi, a pioneer IPOB Leicester Zone member who is in critical condition at the Leicester Royal Infirmary intensive care following severe stroke on Thursday. Please join me and his family to pray Chukwuka Biama to grant him mercy and for him to be one of the 1.3 plus now survivors of stroke. That will be the program tonight. On behalf of the IPOB UK Media and IT Innovation team, those who support in putting this program together every Sunday, and our great Radio Biafra anchor Mazi Chukwuemeka Alozie. From me, from here, is a very good night. God bless.
God bless and Thank you for your program, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and God bless you, all Biafrans.
God bless you too.